Welcome back to The Sustaining Life. My name is Catherine, and this is day 3 of our 100% Einkorn Sourdough starter. Today is actually the first day that we're going to be discarding some of our starter. That's what this container right here is for. After we discard, we'll feed it. But before we do that, we're going to take a look at our starter, see how it's grown, what state it's in right now, and then we'll feed it. So first, we can see that it's risen quite a bit. We can see here that there are still some small bubbles at the bottom. It looks like it rose and then fell. So we're going to open it up and see what level it's at now. It looks like it is about halfway full. I can see some bubbles in the top, some pretty sizable ones actually. And it looks like it rose all the way up to this point, and then it fell to halfway right here. Your starter may look a little bit different depending on the temperature inside of your home, as well as the temperature of the water that you fed it with, and even the humidity level. But for the most part, you should see some small bubbles in the bottom, maybe some bubbles in the top, and it should have risen and most likely has fallen by this point. My husband is putting together a Murphy bed in the back with our toddler, so you might hear the drill and you might hear the toddler. First thing we're gonna do is scrape down the sides and stir our starter, and then we'll discard 100 grams. And this is the point where I wish I had one of those silicone spatulas, like those thin, narrow ones, because that would be great for this. But all I have right now on hand is a wooden spoon, so that is what we're working with here. Again, you don't want to use metal because metal disrupts the gluten development of your starter and the natural fermentation of the yeast, so that's why I'm using my wooden spoon. Pull that apart, and we've got all of these bubbles that I'm bursting, and it's sticking to the side there, and it's smelling yeasty, which is good. It means it's getting stronger. I just want to make sure that I stir this all in. It doesn't have to be super well mixed or anything. We're just getting it ready to discard, and we want to make sure the yeast is evenly distributed throughout the starter before we feed it. You can throw away your discard, but there's so many wonderful things that you can use discard for, like pancakes or muffins or cookies. I am going to weigh that. Right now this is showing 397, but the weight of the glass jar doesn't matter. I don't have to subtract that and then figure out the weight of the starter. It doesn't matter. So total weight, that's fine. We're just gonna take 100 grams out, and I'm gonna put mine in this jar so I can use it for either pancakes or flatbread. So we're gonna bring that weight down to about 297, just because that's the total that I had. And this is in grams. Okay. That's 298, which is good enough. I'm gonna go ahead and scrape my spoon before I put it back in to feed the starter. As you can see too, like this is looking pretty liquidy. We just discarded 100 grams of starter, and that's what I have in this container right here. And I just want to take note of something. You can see my discard move back and forth like this. It looks very liquidy now. Obviously the einkorn has absorbed all of the liquid that we have added to it. And I just wanted to make note of this because at first 75% hydration maybe looked like it wasn't enough, and maybe you in your heart you wanted to add more water, but this proves that you don't need to. It's a pretty runny starter now. Well, this is just discard, but you get the idea. So I'm gonna set that aside and use it in maybe a couple other recipes. I can make einkorn pancakes or muffins. I've actually got a recipe for einkorn flatbread or naan that's on my blog, and I'll probably just make a bunch of that and maybe even enough to stock up in my freezer since I'm trying to prep for postpartum, have some things set aside for that time. Since I used the spoon to discard, I'm going to just use a small quarter cup measure to portion out this part. First though, we want to zero out our scale. So put your starter on your scale, zero that out, and again we're going to feed it 50 grams of all-purpose einkorn flour and 38 grams of warm dechlorinated water. 25 grams, okay. 30 grams, 38, 49, 50 grams of flour. We'll get that zeroed out and pour in 38 grams of water. And it's okay if it's not totally exact, 36, 37, 35 even, whatever. Just want it to be as close to that mark as we can get it because we want to keep it at 75% hydration. So I've got it at 30, 29, 30, kind of teetering there. Okay, 38 is where we want to be. Okay, 38 grams, got it exact today. I've got my starter here. We just fed it flour and water. So we're gonna go ahead and start stirring that in, making sure to incorporate the starter that was originally there. We want this yeast evenly distributed as well as the feed that we just gave it. Let's see, you can see scraping the bottom, making sure to incorporate this well. You do not have to mix it so well that there are absolutely no pockets of flour. In fact, that may overwork the einkorn because it has such a weak gluten structure. You just want to incorporate the water and the flour with your starter. So no need for it to be perfectly smooth. You can scrape the jar as you go, just kind of make sure to get everything in the bottom. Okay, I think that's good. There's a little bit of dry, let's see, dry bits on my spoon actually. You can see that, and that's fine. I'm just gonna go ahead and scrape that bit of starter back into my jar, and then we're gonna cover it. And I know I've said this every video, but if you have an actual jar lid, make sure not to twist it down all the way. Simply twist it down 1, maybe 2 times just to secure the lid, but you don't want to trap the air from that starter in, because as you saw, it rose up all the way to here and it could overflow or burst and maybe even shatter your jar if the air has nowhere to go. Just another reason why I like these cloth covers a little bit more. Okay, and now we're done. We're gonna let this ferment overnight and then we will revisit it again tomorrow. Really quick, I just wanted to show you my discard so you can see there are still bubbles in there. This would be a great time to use that in a discard recipe. So just keep that in mind, that when you use your discard, it doesn't really matter. It could be totally inactive, but the fact that it has some bubbles gives it a little bit more power. We can see here that there are lots of little bubbles, even some larger ones than before. So there's a lot more yeast activity and development in here. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and open it up, see what it looks like on the top. Okay, got some bigger bubbles. I'm sure when we stir it that's gonna be a bit more evident, but that's what our starter looks like right now. You can see it's kind of runny too, which is good. Day 5 of my Einkorn sourdough starter, and
just gonna do a quick check-in before I discard and feed. So we've got some great bubbling activity here. The yeast is developing really nicely, and we're gonna go ahead and open it up, see what it looks like on top, and then give it a stir. And it is smelling sweet and yeasty, but not like bitter, which is what we want. And let's see, you can see it's a little bit runny. Some of the top is a little bit dried. That's totally fine. We're just gonna stir it in, and we're gonna discard and feed in a little bit anyway. So let's go ahead and look and see what, ooh, look at that action right there, those bubbles as I pull it apart from the glass here. That's a lot of activity. This starter is growing strong. I'm really happy with where it is today. Now I will discard 100 grams and feed it 50 grams of all-purpose einkorn flour and 38 grams of water, again, just like yesterday. I just discarded 100 grams of Einkorn Sourdough starter, and I wanted to show you what the inside of my jar looks like. So you might be wondering how much starter you should be left with by the end of discarding 100 grams. It's not going to be much, and that's okay. So we've got sourdough starter on the sides and in the bottom here, and collectively that's probably about a tablespoon of starter, and that's just fine. The yeast that's in the starter here is going to spread to what we fed it, and it'll all be starter. We are going to keep feeding it our 75% hydration ratio of 50 grams of all-purpose einkorn flour and 38 grams of water. And that's going to be the same for days 3 through 7. Today is day 6, and we are seeing bigger bubbles in the starter. Go ahead and open that up, and that's what it looks like on top. It's not as runny as yesterday, but I haven't been feeding it at necessarily the same time. So we're gonna go ahead and stir it. I mean, obviously my jar's a little dirty. You can switch out your jar every day if you want to. It's not necessary when you're first starting. I'll probably put it in a new clean jar tomorrow because I don't have time today, but look at those big bubbles as it pulls apart. That is looking fantastic. So, like I said, it is day 6, and we will be discarding 100 grams and then feeding it 50 grams of all-purpose einkorn flour and 38 grams of water to keep that 75% hydration ratio. Okay, today is day 7 of our 100% einkorn sourdough starter. You can see some good sized bubbles here. It did rise to probably about here. I still need to get a clean jar. I'm gonna go ahead and open this up, and we're gonna stir it around a little bit just to see what it looks like on the inside. The top is a little bit dry, and it's still really thick, but it's somewhat runny. You can see it moving very slowly. Not as runny as the other days, but maybe that's just because I fed it at a different time yesterday than I have been, and that's okay too. You don't have to worry so much about feeding time and then peak time as much as everyone thinks. And honestly, like, if you decided not to use a scale, you could just eyeball it and make it the consistency that you prefer as you get a feel for your starter and einkorn in general. There's no hard and fast rules. I just wanted to make a structured feeding schedule and ratio just for consistency. So we're gonna go ahead and pull that apart. Got some great bubbles in there. Look at that. Turn it. Look at that. Day 7. All right. I can definitely smell the yeast, which is great. It smells sour, but it smells very sweet too. It's not like a bitter, unpleasant smell. It's sweet and sour, like sourdough should smell. And since it is day 7, I am going to discard 100 grams of starter and feed it 30 8 grams of water and 50 grams of all-purpose einkorn flour again.